I never thought I'd marry for money, but when your family loses everything overnight, you'll do anything to save them. Rain beat against the Rivera mansion like the world itself was mocking her. Boxes lined the marble hallway, everything her parents once owned now tagged for auction. Elena stood in the middle of it, her trembling hands clutching a foreclosure notice. Her father, once the proud owner of Rivera Holdings, stared blankly at the fireplace. "It was supposed to be a small dip in the market," he whispered. "Now they've frozen everything, our accounts, our assets." Her mother's voice cracked. "They're threatening to take the house next week. Elena, what will we do?" Elena wanted to scream. Just a month ago, she'd been preparing to open her own design studio. Now, all that remained of her dreams were sketches soaked by tears. A black car pulled up outside. From it emerged a man in a tailored suit, Mr. Blackwell, a family acquaintance and one of the wealthiest businessmen in the city. His arrival didn't feel like salvation, it felt like the storm had just stepped inside. "Elena," he greeted with a smile too polished to be kind. "I'm sorry about your family's misfortune, but I have a proposal that could save everything." Her father's eyes flickered with hope. "Alone?" Mr. Blackwell chuckled softly. "Not quite. My son, Adrian, is looking for a suitable wife. Marry him, and I'll pay your debts, restore your parents' home, and ensure the Rivera's name remains respected." Silence dropped like a weight. Elena's mother clutched her hand. "Elena, think of your father's health. Think of us." Her father couldn't meet her eyes. "You'd be saving us, sweetheart." Elena's heart pounded painfully. She had heard rumors about Adrian Blackwell, the cold-hearted heir who treated relationships like contracts. But watching her parents break beneath the shame of ruin, she realized love wasn't a luxury she could afford. The next week blurred into designer fittings and legal contracts. Every signature felt like another chain tightening around her wrist. On the morning of the wedding, the city glimmered in cruel contrast to the hollow ache inside her. She arrived at the cathedral in a car that wasn't hers, wearing a gown that felt like armor. Cameras flashed. Reporters shouted questions about the union between the Riveras and Blackwells. None of them saw the tremor in her hands. At the altar, Adrian stood tall, impeccable suit, emotionless eyes, his presence radiating control. He didn't even glance at her as she approached. Then, her breath caught. Standing beside him as best man, was Liam. Her chest tightened. The world tilted. Liam, the boy she'd loved in college, the one who'd promised forever before walking away without explanation, was Adrian's brother. The past crashed into the present in a blur of memories, stolen kisses in the library, whispered dreams under city lights, the heartbreak of his sudden disappearance. Liam's eyes widened in shock, mirroring hers. But he quickly masked it, his jaw tightening. The ceremony proceeded, each vow slicing through her like paper cuts. When Adrian's cold lips brushed her cheek, she felt nothing but frost. Applause erupted. Cameras flashed again. To the world, she was now Mrs. Blackwell, the billionaire's bride. To herself, she was a stranger trapped in a golden cage. The mansion was breathtaking, marble halls, chandeliers like constellations, but every corner echoed with emptiness. Adrian showed her to her wing of the house like one would show a new employee her office. "You'll have access to the social calendar through my assistant," he said curtly. "We'll appear together for the company image, but otherwise, keep to your schedule. I don't enjoy chaos." Elena forced a polite smile. "Of course." When he left, the silence roared. Days passed. Adrian barely spoke unless in public. At dinners, he discussed stock portfolios, never feelings. The servants avoided eye contact, trained to obey without conversation. Then one night, she ran into Liam in the library. He froze when he saw her. "You shouldn't be here." She tried to steady her voice. "Neither should you, apparently. You never said your last name was Blackwell." Liam sighed, running a hand through his hair. "Because it never mattered back then. I didn't want my family's name to define me, or us. Yet here we are," she said bitterly. "Your brother's wife." Pain flickered in his eyes. "I didn't know. I swear, Elena, I didn't know until the engagement was announced." "Then why didn't you stop it?" "Because Adrian does whatever he wants," he snapped. "You think anyone says no to him?" His anger softened as he looked at her trembling hands. You don't deserve this. Before she could reply, footsteps echoed down the hall. Adrian entered, eyes cold as steel. What are you two doing here? Liam stepped back instantly. Nothing. I was just leaving. Adrian's gaze lingered on Elena, sharp and suspicious. I don't tolerate secrets in my house. When he left, she realized her heartbeat hadn't slowed. Weeks passed, tension coiling tighter with each day. Adrian's controlling nature grew worse, tracking her outings, questioning her calls, demanding she attend every event by his side. And yet, despite his coldness, something more sinister lurked beneath his control, an obsession with keeping her exactly where he wanted. Meanwhile, Liam kept his distance, but fate seemed determined to throw them together, a charity gala, a family lunch, the occasional chance encounter in the corridor. Once, after a particularly icy dinner, Elena found Liam waiting outside the ballroom. You don't belong here, he said quietly. I made my choice, she whispered. He shook his head. No. You made a sacrifice. Their hands brushed, electric, dangerous. Then she pulled away. Stop.
Adrian is watching everything.
Liam's jaw clenched. That's exactly what I'm afraid of. That night, she couldn't sleep. She kept hearing the same phrase echo in her mind, you don't belong here. She began noticing strange inconsistencies, business files that had been deleted, whispers among staff about her father's company. Whenever she asked Adrian about the bankruptcy, his tone turned sharp. Your family made bad choices, he said coldly. Don't bring their mistakes into my house. But one evening, while Adrian was away on a trip, she found herself in his office, staring at his locked drawer. Her hands shook as she picked up a paperclip and forced it open. Inside were documents, emails between the Blackwell Group and Rivera Holdings. One in particular froze her blood. A transfer of shares, dated 2 days before her father's company collapsed. Someone had known. Someone had orchestrated it. The signature at the bottom was blurry, but a name appeared in the recipient line, L. Blackwell. Her breath hitched. Liam? No. It couldn't be. Tears burned her eyes as she clutched the paper. Everything she'd endured, the humiliation, the loveless marriage, had been because of him? When Liam returned from a trip later that week, she cornered him in the garden under the fading sunset. I found the documents, she said, voice trembling. You ruined my family. You forced me into this. His eyes widened. What are you talking about?
Don't lie to me, Liam.
Your name was on the file. He stepped closer, desperation raw in his voice. Listen to me. I had nothing to do with it. Adrian used my account. He's been doing it for years, using my name when he doesn't want a paper trail. He wanted control, Elena. Over you, over your father, over me. She stared at him, torn between anger and disbelief. Why should I trust you? Because I never stopped loving you, he said, voice breaking. And because Adrian will destroy you if you try to expose him. Before she could answer, Adrian's voice echoed from behind them. So that's what this is about. He stepped out of the shadows, eyes burning with fury. My wife and my brother. How poetic. Liam turned, fists clenched. It's not what you think. Oh, it's exactly what I think, Adrian sneered. I knew you'd find each other eventually. That's why I married her, because she was yours. Elena gasped. Adrian, what are you saying? He smiled darkly. You wanted to save your family. I wanted to ruin his. Now we're both satisfied. The air cracked with tension. Liam lunged at him, but Adrian's guards were already closing in. Get out, Adrian ordered his brother. And if I ever see you near my wife again, I'll make sure you lose more than a company name. Liam met Elena's eyes one last time before leaving through the gates. When the doors slammed shut, Adrian turned to her, his expression chillingly calm. You made your choice, Elena. Don't forget who owns that choice. He walked away, leaving her shaking beneath the garden lights. For the first time, she realized she wasn't just trapped in a marriage, she was living inside a plan. And she had to find a way out before it destroyed her completely. Elena couldn't sleep that night. The sound of the grandfather clock echoed through the marble halls, marking every passing second of her torment. Adrian hadn't returned home after their argument. Maybe he was with one of his mistresses, she didn't care anymore. Her heart was too heavy, her mind too restless. She sat by the window, staring at the lights of the city that used to symbolize hope. Now they looked like reminders of everything she'd lost: freedom, love, and trust. Her thoughts were interrupted by a soft knock. She turned to see Liam standing at her doorway, still in his office clothes. His face was pale, his eyes full of guilt and worry. "Elena," he said quietly, stepping into the room. "We need to talk." She looked away. "I don't think there's anything left to say. I've already heard enough lies for one lifetime." He exhaled, rubbing the back of his neck. "I didn't lie to you. You just didn't want to believe me." Her jaw tightened. "So you expect me to believe that your brother, your own blood, destroyed my family just to, what? Own me?" Liam's eyes darkened. "You don't understand Adrian. When he wants something, he finds a way to make the world give it to him. You think it's coincidence your father's company collapsed the same week Adrian started talking about a new business partnership?" Elena's pulse quickened. "You have proof?" He hesitated. "Not yet. But I know where it is." "Where?" she demanded. "In his private office at Blackwell Holdings. He keeps everything: contracts, ledgers, digital backups, locked in that safe. But getting in won't be easy." Elena's eyes flickered with determination. "Then we'll make it easy." For the first time in months, she felt something she hadn't felt before: purpose. The next day, she walked into Adrian's study with a smile plastered across her face. He was at his desk, reading documents, his sharp gaze lifting to meet hers. "What do you want, Elena?" His tone was clipped, suspicious. "I was thinking." She took a slow step forward. "Maybe we could start over. No more fights, no more cold wars. You said you married me to build an empire, so let me help." He raised an eyebrow, clearly amused. "You? Help me?" She shrugged lightly, her voice steady despite her racing heart. "I know people underestimate me, but I wasn't raised useless. My father built his empire from nothing. Maybe I could help with negotiations, events, whatever you need." Adrian studied her closely. "You're full of surprises." She smiled faintly. "You married me for a reason, didn't you?" He smirked. "That reason was convenience." Her smile faltered, but she kept her tone calm. "Then let's make it convenient for both of us." That night, while Adrian attended a late meeting, she slipped into his office at the company. Liam had already disabled the security cameras, just for 10 minutes. Her hands trembled as she typed in the passcode Liam had found from an old system backup. The safe door clicked open. Inside were neatly stacked documents, contracts, and a flash drive. Her eyes scanned the folder titles: Rivera Holdings Acquisition, Debt Absorption Agreement, and one that froze her blood: Marriage Settlement. She plugged the flash drive into the computer, scrolling through the files. Her father's company had been systematically targeted, accounts frozen, assets liquidated, and debts transferred under shell companies, all linked back to Blackwell Group. Her eyes blurred with tears. Every signature, every timestamp led to one man: Adrian Blackwell. The door behind her clicked. "Elena." Her blood turned to ice. She spun around to find Adrian standing in the doorway, his expression unreadable. "What are you doing?" Her voice trembled. "You ruined my family." He took a slow step forward. "You shouldn't be here." "You used me," she spat. "You destroyed my father's company so I'd have no choice but to marry you." Adrian's calm mask slipped. "I did what was necessary." She shook her head in disbelief. "Necessary? To trap me?" His voice hardened. "To protect you. Your father was going under regardless. If I hadn't stepped in, your family would have been eaten alive by his investors. I gave you stability, comfort, a future." "You call this a future?" she hissed. "You call this prison stability?" Adrian's composure cracked for the first time. "You think Liam would have given you anything better? He's weak, he couldn't protect you. I could." Her heart twisted. "You destroyed my life and called it protection. You're worse than I thought." Before she could say another word, the office door opened again. Liam rushed in, breathless. Adrian, stop. Adrian's glare shot toward him. You brought her here. Liam stepped in front of Elena. You've gone too far. Adrian's voice turned deadly quiet. You've always been jealous. Always wanted what's mine. First the company, now my wife. She's not your property. Liam snapped. Adrian lunged forward, grabbing his brother by the collar. Papers flew, glass shattered as the brothers fought. Elena screamed for them to stop, but Adrian shoved Liam hard against the desk. You always envied me, Adrian growled. The heir, the success, the respect. And you always destroyed everything you touched. Liam shot back, striking him across the jaw. Elena grabbed the flash drive and shouted, Stop it. Both of you. They froze, both panting, bruised, eyes full of hate and pain. Elena's voice trembled but rose strong. You both claim to care about me, but look at you, tearing each other apart while I clean up the pieces. I'm done being your pawn. She stormed past them, clutching the flash drive like it was her last piece of power. Adrian called after her, but she didn't stop. The next morning, the story broke across every business network, Blackwell Holdings under investigation for fraudulent acquisition. Elena had leaked the documents anonymously. She watched from a quiet cafe as reporters swarmed the Blackwell building. The mighty empire was collapsing, and she felt free. Her phone buzzed, an unknown number. It was Adrian. Elena, his voice was hoarse. You've ruined everything. She closed her eyes, calm for the first time in months.
No, Adrian.
I just revealed the truth. You'll regret this, he hissed. You think you can just walk away? She smiled sadly. I'm not walking away, Adrian. I'm walking home. She ended the call and stepped outside. The wind brushed her hair as sunlight broke through the clouds, soft and golden. Hours later, Liam found her standing by the old pier where they used to meet in college. He looked tired, but relieved. So you did it, he said softly. I did, she replied. And I don't know if I feel victorious or just empty. He nodded. Maybe both. You lost a lot, but you gained yourself back. She turned to him. And you? What will you do now? He shrugged. I'm leaving the company. What Adrian did, it's unforgivable. I'll start something new. Something honest. For a moment, they stood in silence, the sound of waves filling the air. Then he said, Elena, I never stopped. She shook her head gently. Don't. Not now. We've both been through too much. Maybe one day we'll find peace, but not like this. He nodded, understanding. As she walked away, the wind carried her words faintly back to him. Goodbye, Liam. Back at the Rivera estate, now modest but peaceful, Elena stood in front of the old gates. The house had been repossessed once, but she planned to rebuild it, not with money, but with purpose. She had applied for a small business grant, determined to restore her father's legacy on her own terms. That night, she recorded her story for a video journal, a message to herself, and maybe to others. I thought I lost everything when my family went bankrupt, she said softly, looking into the camera. But now I know, freedom is worth more than any fortune. Her voice cracked slightly, but she smiled. If you've ever been trapped by someone else's power, don't give up. Find your truth, even if it costs you everything. She leaned closer to the camera, her eyes sincere. And if you felt my story, don't forget to like, comment, and subscribe. Because stories like these, stories about survival and truth, deserve to be heard. She turned off the camera, exhaled, and looked out the window. The moonlight shimmered on the quiet road ahead. Elena Rivera was finally free. And somewhere far away, Adrian Blackwell sat in his ruined office, watching the empire he built crumble, replaying her last words in his head. He had won every battle, except the one that mattered most. The one for her heart.